Morning team, we're back once again to the wonderful Peacock waters here in Lincolnshire. We was here a few weeks ago doing some waggler fishing. I've just come back from holiday, and normally when I go away I always take a little whip, do a bit of fishing off of the harbour, but this time I didn't have a chance really, to be honest. So I've been itching to have a little bit of a fish. I'm not out again for quite some time, got other family arrangements and whatnot, so I'm just stealing a few hours, back to work tomorrow. Little one's at nursery, wife's at work, I've got 4 hours to fish. So I thought to myself, what can we do that will teach the viewers something new, especially those beginners, and something a little bit different as well. So, look, I'm here at the lake. You know, if you watched the last video, I caught really well fishing a waggler shallow. What could I do for a few hours? I was thinking I could fish a whip, it's a hand, little balls of ground bait. And then I thought, no, something we've not covered before in the past, and that is a wand. A silly old name, but pardon the pun, the magic of the wand. It's essentially a short rod, and the one I'm going to use today I think is about 8 foot, which allows you to fish really close in, nice and tight, and see delicate little bites. And we know that this lake is full of small silvers, various species, with the odd bream, and well, if you watched the last video you've seen a big bonus carp there. I'm certainly not fishing for them today, just looking for a couple of pound of silvers whilst I've got a few hours free today. So let's get set up, talk through the wand tactics. That is so simple, and the idea really is if a beginner wants to learn to fish a rod and reel, and isn't sure about waggler fishing and doesn't want to fish a whip, etc., then a wand could be a real option. So let's get tackled up and I'll show you the tactics. Right, here we are then, peg wise. So as always, location, then the presentation, and then the feeding are the key rules. No thought process whatsoever. I've just literally walked from my car, which is behind those gates, to the first peg, which I know holds a few fish. Nothing special at all. So for those that are unsure what I meant by what a wand is, I've got a really basic setup today. As I said, I've got a few hours free. Couldn't be lugging a load of gear around. I've just parked the car up, jumped on this peg, and I've got together this little Garbolino Super Rocket. It's 8 foot 2 inch. It's called a picker, also known as a wand, with a very light 3/4 of an ounce glassed tip. Because we're fishing for small fish, I want to see all indications. If you've watched the videos before, you'll know that it's a very deep venue. It's up to 25 feet deep in the middle of the lake. In this corner it's a lot more shallower, but what I'm going to do, because it's quite a nice bright sunny day, it's about 20 degrees, I'm just going to chuck sort of on line with the tree straight facing me, and just off of this overhanging tree here. So it's I'm probably only fishing about 12-13 metres, and that's ideal for wand distance, if you like. Rig wise, it doesn't get much simple. I've got a nice simple 3000 reel with 4 pound main line. That's Daiwa sensor, down to a small 15 gram cage feeder. It's free running on the line. That's stopped by 2 number 8 stots, and then I've got a twizzle boom with 1, 2, 3, 4 loops, and that just enables the hook length, which is 12 inches, to kick away from the feeder. So with that, probably a 8-inch boom and a 12-inch hook length, I'm fishing about 20 inches in depth. It's a pre-tied hook to nylon with a Camazan F1 hook size 20. So it's small, but we're fishing for small fish, barbless of course, on this lake. Just going to start with a single red maggot, mixture of Teddy Fisher Lake, just straight out the bag, mixed up, mixed fairly dry, but I'm going to pack it in, and the thinking is that it's going to give off a few bits and pieces as it's sinking in what's probably around 8 foot of water just there. But when it gets to the bottom, because it's dry, it'll sort of explode out the feeder. I'm not going to put any loose offerings in there to start with. On the bait tray, I've got some red and white maggots, 1 pint of. I've got some old micro pellets that were in the freezer, some dead red maggots, and some worms that I just got out of the compost this morning. So cheap as chips, nice simple day. And that's what I mean by packing it in quite tight in the ground bait feeder. It's a tiny, tiny little micro feeder, and all I want is just to build the swim for the first half an hour, and just a little chuck. No need for lots and lots of sort of bait going in, no need for line clips. I'm just going to sink that line nice and simple. It's probably about 6 foot there, counting down, so it's not particularly deep. And then just pop it on the rest, nice and low, just there. And what I'm looking for is little rattles and little rattles and knocks on the tip. Hoping for these little roach and perch. If you think back to the waggler session that we did last time we were here, it was just putting in maggots first, just to get a bit of competition going in the upper reaches, upper layers of the water, and then we started feeding casters. I've got no casters today, and it's going to be a similar principle with this. I'm going to cast very, very regular for the first 20 minutes, just building up, little bits of ground bait going in, and then once I start getting a few bites, then I'm going to start putting a little bit of chopped worm through the feeder, and just see if we can't get ourselves a couple of the skimmers and hybrids that are in here. But to be honest, I'm not bothered. They will do. 1 ounce, 2 ounce roach, rudd, perch, bits and pieces, just stuff to go in the net for a couple of hours fishing. So it's as simple as that. It's basically a scaled down version of fishing an open-ended feeder. At short range, you can get tucked in. A lot of these pegs on this lake are all overgrown with big trees, a very old lake. But regardless of where you choose to fish, because the rod's so small, I can just flick underarm. I mean, I've just done an overarm chuck, that's fine because I've got nothing around me. But if I was in one of these more overgrown pegs, it's a perfect way to fish a little feeder. As I say, it's not particularly deep there. If I start going out to my right hand side, it gets deeper and deeper, but I'm fishing towards cover. Right, so we've been fishing about 20 minutes. It took about 5 or 6 casts to get a few fish in the area. Small perch, odd roach, bits and pieces as I expected. First thing, I made a quick change to a size 18's hook, Drennan silverfish hook, because they were nicking the maggots off of the size 20, and even putting a dead red on, which is usually a good trick to avoid that, they were still nicking that as well. So because now we've got a few fish in the area, we're looking now to introduce a little bit of chopped worm. Chopped a few worms up out the garden, put that through the feeder. And the idea of what we're trying to achieve is that we're in about 7 foot of water off the edge of that tree. Little knocks there. Is this dry ground bait? As it hits the water, the loose bits on the edge are going to fizz and pop and go down very slowly. But the bulk of the bait in the feeder is, what's this? Is packed in quite hard. It's a nice perch. It's packed in quite hard, so that's going to hit the bottom and then start exploding out. And then with my sort of 18-inch hook length, just sinking slowly above it, the fish are going to snatch at it and be pretty quick like that was. And it can be a really quick method. And that's the thinking. 2 dead reds on an 18s, a little bit of chopped worm in the feeder, and just plug it either end with that dryish ground bait. And we're just chucking, not on a dinner plate, just at the end of that tree, just there. Let it sink down, feel it hit the bottom, and just tighten up slowly. You can see the rod rest is pretty much straight in front of me because I'm fishing at an angle. It's more than enough angle for the fish to either hook itself or show the bite. Just tighten up very slowly. And because I've got such a light tip on, 3/4 of an ounce, you'll see all the little knocks and indications as they hit the feeder. But when they take the bait, it will be a lot more positive. As I say, it can be quite a fast bite. Not as quick as the waggler that we did last time we came here, that is for sure. You can really get them going shallow on that, but this is quite a nice, that's a little liner then. This is quite a nice way of sort of building a swim and using ground bait and attracting a bit of everything. At the minute, it's 90% perch, and that's probably because of the worm that I'm putting through the feeder. That might be on. No, got a bit giddy then. The only challenge I've got is we've got a big bunch of reeds in front, well, floating duckweed between me and where I'm fishing. And because it's a short rod, you've got to try and get anything decent around that. I'm not fishing on a dinner plate, just that general area. And we will get bites on the drop. So just make sure you've got a slight bend in the tip. Now let's see what happens. With that light tip you see everything. There's another touch. Wait for the positive bite. Missed it, and it's nicked me hook bait. Might be time for a bigger hook, or even to shorten the hook length. So we're just gonna, again, just on the edge of that tree. Perfect. Tip under the water whilst the line sinks. Just tighten up. Look for those bites on as it settles. And bites are pretty instant. This can be a really quick method when the little fish turn up. Just got to try and avoid them nicking the bait off the hook. We want them hooking themselves really. So we could put a shorter hook length on. Okay, we've shortened the hook length now, so about 6 inches. Another dead red on the hook this time. So I've got about probably 12 inches now from the feeder to the actual hook. Still that size 18. And just tighten up. We're not going to get that nice slow fall, but the hook is closer to the feeder. That's another perch. And the bite was a bit more positive as well. I'll try that one again. Oh, that wasn't really on the money, but we're not fishing on a dinner plate, that's fine. Little pluck so you can see everything on that light tip. That's it. Another perch. Loads of perch down there. And greedy as well. That's despite having the short hook length. Let's try a worm's head. A little bit beyond the feed there, to be quite honest. And the bite on the drop. Before the line had even sunk. Another perch. Loads of perch down there. It's probably because I'm feeding a little bit of chopped worm through the feeder. There's a few dead maggots in this mix. That's a little bit short. And bite us on the drop. There we go. Feels slightly better. It feels perchy again, but a bit bigger. Yeah. We'll net that one. That's right on the scissors. So slightly better stamp on a piece of worm. Oh. Tiny bit of worm on. That's as soon as it hit the deck. Another perch. Can we risk it? Just about. It seems to be a perch day. Right, fishing about an hour and a half now. I reckon I'll fish for probably 3.5 hours today. And it's just perch after perch after perch. It really is. As long as I just chuck it in that general area around that tree, you cast out, let it hit the deck, the tip springs back and start tightening up. Might just dink, 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 dink. There we go. And they're all about an ounce a piece. This feels slightly better. I'll net that one just in case. And they are mega greedy. So it looks like we're going to have a net of perch to show you at the end. And kindly the fisheries let me put them in the net. Okay, another slight change of tactic. I've gone to a slightly bigger feeder. Still 15 grams, but it's probably double the size of that little mini feeder that I kicked off with. Thinking behind it, these perch are great and they're real weight builders. Good fun. That's exactly what I'm looking for. But the matchman in me always wants more and wants better. So I'm going to introduce more bait by using this slightly bigger feeder. As I say, it's not going to struggle the rod too much because it's still 15 grams, not too heavy for the rod. Just a little bit of extra bait in there. And I've moved this rod rest even closer to my left, so it's pretty much directly in front of me now, so I can strike quicker, like that. Again, another perch, but that's fine. Take a little bit more time to get a bit more bait in. And this is sort of typical stamp, couple of ounce. You can see just there, beautiful little fish. Double dead reds on the hook. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put a good handful of dead reds in this ground bait mix here. And a bit of chopped worm in there as well. Just so there's a bit of all sorts going in every time we cast out. I might even put, why not? Perch aren't massive fans of pellet, but a few of these old pellets that I took out the freezer this morning. Makes no odds. Just to see if we can't get ourselves some different species on the go. As I said earlier, I think that they're probably higher in the water column, but let's just see what happens putting a bit more bait through the feeder. Okay, bite on as soon as it hits the deck, missed it. That's fine. Opportunity to get some more ground bait in. And this short hook length's done the trick. Oh. Let's see. Knock straight away again. It's really quick fishing. If you don't get a bite, you know either your hook bait's been nicked or something big has moved in. Just got to watch out for these weed beds here. So whatever this is has gone straight in there. Only a little perch, but yeah, you can see. There we go, another perch. Incredible. Right, so we are waving our magic wand, and you might be able to see there on the camera. Not only have I put that bigger feeder on, I'm now packing it with live maggots. So I'm putting a good handful of maggots in the middle of the feeder and plugging it with the ground bait. Again, just to see if we can get any other species going, but so far it's all perch. They are getting slightly bigger, I'll say that. But there's a lot of perch out there. Never let it be said that perch don't like ground bait, because I'll show you now. We're grabbing the cage feeder, we're packing it with live maggots and then plugging either end really tightly so they get to the bottom. And it's just a general cast in that area. Let it go down. The tip springs back when it hits the bottom. Tighten up slowly and it goes round. So pretty fast and furious fishing, to be fair. And they're all like peas in a pod with the odd better fish, the odd netter. Well, we've hooked something a little bit better. I had one worm left in my little tub. And at last, it is a bream. Not long ago, I said one of the lads over the way, one of the carp lads had caught a bream. So it got my hopes up a little bit. That's why I stuck that worm on. I've had to wait a bit longer, and at long last, hey ho, a nice bream. We'll pop him in the net. Well, I'm not even too sure whether the sound caught me putting the fish back in then, because the fatigue's got to me. Managed to fish just over 3 hours. That flight last night's done me in. But to get a few bites on a wand, something a little bit different, food for thought, fishing against a feature, just ringing the changes with baits and whatnot, and the tail length, etc. Brought a nice day's fishing. Loads and loads of perch, God knows how many. A couple of bonus skimmers, hybrids towards the end as well. So food for thought, the magic of the wand. hopefully that's given you a few ideas. So cheers for watching.